ago, and I think I said earlier that I finally found my voice when I found Agnes, because we met at a women's event in York, and I remember sitting in the audience and just looking at this woman speaking out, stating her views, and I suddenly thought, oh well, wow, does that mean I can do that? No, she gave me that inspiration to find my voice that I thought I'd lost. So thank you, Agnes. So in the beginning, I never saw speaking out as activism. I was simply stating my views, as I was so shocked at the lack of knowledge and the lack of understanding, both in the public arena, but also, more disturbingly, from healthcare professionals as well. I assumed they knew what dementia was. I assumed they knew what I was going through, but I so soon realised that they didn't have a Scooby-Doo. Before today, I looked up the definition of activism, and it said the policy or action of using vigorous campaigning to bring about political or social change. And many people would question whether people living with dementia are capable then of activism. But in my humble opinion, activism comes in all shapes and forms and takes on many guises. Some outspoken in public forums, some campaigning tirelessly, but others seeping into the very nature of people's minds and their thoughts to bring about change. But all are a type of activism. When I moved into my village, because of my sensory challenges, there appeared to be very little understanding of dementia. And I could have hired the village hall and invited everyone to come and hear me talk. But would anyone have listened at that time? I doubt it very much. No one knew me, and I wasn't a local. I hadn't been accepted at that point. So sometimes activism has to be gentle and a softly approach. I chatted at the bus stop, and still do with many of the locals. And they've seen me in the press and the radio now and heard me on telly. So now what I say is accepted and is actually sought after. They come and talk to me. So in my own way, I've changed hearts and minds of the villagers and given them a greater understanding, so they in turn can understand me and the many others in the village living with dementia who are whispered about. There used to be an asylum just outside our village, and so memories still loom large of Uncle George disappearing and never being seen again. So although they all know and accept I have dementia, the word is never spoken. No one uses that word dementia except me, because they have these images still in their mind. And also through my book, I hope I've changed some hearts and minds. I know from all the thousands of emails that I receive that I've opened people's mind to a different way of thinking. But that sometimes comes at a cost. Because speaking of my book, I have bought some copies that anyone would like to buy, but unlike Agnes, I'm afraid you do have to buy my one. I'm not as lucky. But the fact that we speak out in whatever way we find comfortable, both in the political and social arena, leads us to being criticised by many. Our diagnosis being questioned by clinicians. After all, in some of their minds, we should not be able to speak out. And they question the status quo. You know, do we really have dementia? Do we have real dementia? Those minds are the hardest to crack and the hardest to change, as they have this tunnel vision of thought and belief that they're right and won't listen to the bigger picture. But this criticism has put a stop to many people believing they can have an opinion, a different opinion. And it's silenced a few, never to speak again. There's one person that went on Twitter for the first time and was instantly criticised by this so-called professional, and now hides away inside. Pardon?
I said you can say who it is.
I can't remember his name, otherwise I would. But no. But she's never spoken out since. So how tragic that a professional has caused someone to hide away because they have dementia. But academia and research has opened up a whole new world of involvement. Suddenly, academics are seeing the value of working with people with dementia, not just through participation, but through consultation and in partnership with. I soon realised 5 years ago, when my passion for research began to take hold, that students are one of our most special commodities, as they can really change the way dementia is viewed in the future. When studying, they often fail to appreciate the power they could have over future thoughts, and often lack the confidence when they first start out in the big wide world to question the authority. But their vision and their ability to make working alongside people with dementia could normalise research involvement in the future. Every researcher who comes into contact with someone with dementia can affect the way we feel about ourselves, sometimes just for that moment in time. But what a responsibility to have for researchers. By the very language you use, you can make that person feel valued and special, or you can demoralise them and make them feel worthless. By the genuine smile on your face, from your body language that we pick up on, you can make them feel happy or sad. And because our emotions are heightened with dementia, so often we pick up on those feelings rather than the detail of what you're talking about. And it's those emotions that make us want to be involved rather than the detail. But what a responsibility for you all to have. So you can see how important it is for you to get it right. And not everyone has that ability or knowledge of how to get it right. And some need to learn and be taught how to get it right. My local research team often use me as a practice before they go out to people, just as a way of finding out whether they're getting it right and just trying out the way they speak the questions. So who better for researchers to ask than people living with dementia? And who better for researchers to work with from the start than people living with dementia the very group of people they hope to take part in their research. And just because we have dementia doesn't mean we're not capable of advising on projects, advising on their design, on the patient information sheets. After all, how do you know you're getting it right if you don't ask the people that are going to be looking at it? And involve us in promoting your research and encouraging others to take part. I know, as I say, I'm a Twitterholic, so you never get me off Twitter. But many researchers now will tweet me their project to get participants. And they find it so much easier because of the network of people that are on social media. But it also encourages those, by us promoting, it also encourages others with dementia to take part. Because we're not talking as a professional, we're talking as someone just like them, living with dementia. However, as we've heard today, I know researchers find it so hard for people to take part. I know it's a constant challenge for you. And this may be due to overprotective clinicians sometimes, or overprotective family and friends, but may also be due to simply the lack of understanding of the meaning of research. So for me, it's vital that we make research more easily understood, more accessible and more open. While inevitably you have to use academic jargon and complexities when you're in some academic settings, but never use it in public. Be careful of the language that you use. And taking part should have an obvious reason, should be seen as being valuable, and more importantly, should be seen as being fun and interesting. No one wants to feel overwhelmed or out of their depth, or to feel ignorant, or not understand what's happening and why. And to be involved from the start allows researchers to have that critical friend. We're there to listen to your successes as well as your challenges. And we can highlight where processes might not fit in outside the academic world. Why a project might be doomed to fail or simply not what people with dementia are looking for. Where something as simple as adding a photo, adding your photo, might seem more welcoming to participants because they can see a smiley face and they know instantly who they're dealing with. And just because I live with dementia doesn't mean I'm not able to give an opinion and have views that matter. We're also bringing something else to the table. The academic brings their professional expertise, as you all have, but we bring our expert by experience expertise. And together we have to make that winning formula. There has to be. For me, being involved is my Sudoku, as it keeps my brain exposed to different challenges. For the academic, it brings reality to your research. So it's a win-win situation. But you have to learn to work in different ways to accommodate our involvement. Social research in partnership with people living with dementia can make our voice louder. It brings evidential support to our views, our thoughts on the best ways to live and the best ways to care for those who can no longer care for themselves. People with dementia are sometimes listened to, but without evidence to back up our ideas and criticism of the current systems, we have little power. And it almost feels as if the most of our time that our voices are heard sympathetically, but with little value attached. with researchers working alongside us, we can provide that evidence to be heard and acted upon. There are still so many people out there, so many researchers out there who don't see the power of the partnership of people with dementia. So I'm simply asking, please don't be one of them. Thank you.